Hey there! We just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you who have listened, shared, engaged, and sent us love. It means the world to know that we've had the chance to spread even just a little bit of knowledge, insight, and encouragement to you along your health journeys.
If you'd like to support the work we're doing, we've created a Patreon page where you can earn some exciting rewards, because being a part of the HIP team isn't just a hobby, it's a lifestyle.
Contributions start as low as $1 a month, with each level offering a number of super fun perks, like monthly bonus episodes, Q&As, a portrait drawn by our own in-house artist, and even personal chats with the Health It's Personal team.
We created this podcast so that everyone can have the chance to access informative, inspirational, and insightful stories, and your support is a huge step in us reaching those who need it most. We wish we could give you all a big hug, but hopefully this will suffice, at least until we're allowed to hug again.
If you love what you hear or are as passionate about health as we are, please visit patreon.com/thehip podcast. That's patreon.com/the-HIP podcast. We couldn't do this without you, so thank you again, and thanks in advance for joining our ever-growing HIP family.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Health It's Personal. We are currently on our deep dive into the vast and unbelievably fascinating world of nutrition. Today we had the great pleasure of speaking with power couple Nick Sheeran and Joe Wise. They're both chiropractors and former professional athletes. She's also a functional medicine nutritionist, which makes them the perfect team when it comes to looking at the body holistically. So they gave us some amazing advice on how to listen to our bodies, which I know I could do a lot more of.
Me too.
Right? Joe's also a two-time Olympian, and they both crushed it at the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, and they have the greatest insight on tackling health and nutrition as young athletes, and gave us some powerful, practical wisdom to take away from that as well.
So after this interview, what I know now is that what I've always known is I need to drink more water.
Yep.
And I'm thinking I need my stool tested.
Yeah, sign me up.
Definitely.
This seems to be a common theme as
it's
we
very
talk to
insightful.
these nutritionists. Yeah.
It's unfortunately very insightful. You hear it from naturopaths, you hear it from nutritionists, you hear it from the, standard Western
People in Ayurveda.
Yeah, and medical doctors at the hospital.
Yeah, this is just one more group of people who have reminded us to look at ourselves when it comes to nutrition or mental health and our bodies as a holistic approach. Really being in tune with ourselves and recognizing that it's not a one-size-fits-all thing, and that maybe something that's causing you back pain has also something to do with your nervous system or a connection between your gut and your brain. There are so many things that we forget about sometimes that I was reminded in this interview that I needed.
And it was great to see those common threads between everyone we've chatted to about all these things, and that, like you said, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and it's very much being in tune with yourself and listening to those signs that your body gives you, all the little clues and messages that your body is sending, which is really great because it's a nice reminder, because sometimes we're comparing ourselves to others, or what are other people going through?
Yeah, I think it's also really easy to mask the issues that you have. So for example, if you're tired, you take energy drinks or drink a bunch of coffee throughout the day.
For sure.
And we've talked with others that have said that just perpetuates the problem. Or if we're feeling sluggish, we crave sugar. Or if we're having pain, instead of going and having someone take a look at it and help us with it, we mask it with Tylenol.
Like many people do who train really hard because it has so much wear and tear in your body, but you have to get to that next training session, so you just, whatever it takes.
Yeah, or if you're a runner and your knees hurt or whatever the thing is.
Nick was talking about how when he was an athlete, he would just drink a ton of coffee.
Yeah.
And instead of thinking about his energy management and how he can get the best out of the nutrients that he's putting into his body or different things, his sleep, food, he was just pumping himself, with coffee. And I think, so many people do that. I cut out coffee 2 years ago, maybe. I still drink caffeinated tea, but it's a bit of a slower burn.
Same. How long has it been for me? Like 6 months?
Yeah, more. 9 or a year.
Nice.
Yeah. We've been trying to get away from that.
It's not easy. We love it so much.
Yeah.
Like, literally, that was one of the hardest things I ever gave up, was my coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had given it up for like a year or so myself.
Well, it's too acidic for our very sensitive stomachs. And also, I wanted to manage my energy in a really positive way. And that's not always the right way to do it.
I had cut out all caffeine actually for about a year, and it was very awesome in many ways. However, I do really enjoy a lot of beverages that have caffeine in them, and I had learned a lot about decaf, and perhaps I did way too much research into decaf, and unfortunately that wasn't something that I had really necessarily a good alternative.
No.
So I have actually been drinking it, but like I will only have sometimes I can only drink half a cup of coffee.
A couple takeaways from this episode that I love so much are thinking about the different colors of the fruits and vegetables that we're choosing and a nice variety to feed our gut properly. Thinking about JERF.
Yes, JERF is huge. Yeah, this was this acronym that Nick mentioned. It's
such a JERF.
Yeah.
I know. It seems like I just want to call someone that.
But it's so simple. It's just eat real food. JERF. Just JERF it. I guess that's easier.
Just
JERF. just eat real food. We haven't fully grasped the concept, but
the ATM machine.
So JERF, just eat real food. And I think the number one thing that stuck out to me was cutting back on sugar. I know that I've always needed to do this. I tried to do this all the time. I've gone months without eating sugar. I know that I'm capable of doing that if I feel like I need to. I also let myself have my moments. But something that I never thought of is how much sugar plays a role in your immune system. She was saying that from the time you eat sugar, it takes about 5 hours for your immune system to kind of replenish itself, I guess.
Or fully recover, yeah.
Yeah, and that's so interesting, especially right now, because we need our immune systems, man.
And we also need our sugar.
Yeah, it was so inspiring to just listen to them chat. They were really fantastic human beings, and it was really great to connect.
Yeah, and they love what they do. And, we told them our favorite part of doing this podcast is that all of our guests are really genuinely passionate about helping people, and you could just see that from them. So please, everyone, grab a cup of tea and enjoy this episode.
Health is understanding what you need,
being informed, finding that balance of mental and physical,
building yourself a support system,
figuring things out on my own and not letting it hold me back.
You do kind of have to advocate for yourself.
Because health, it's personal.
Welcome, Nick and Joe. We're so glad to talk to you both today. You're obviously both very health and fitness conscious due to your backgrounds as professional athletes. I wonder what that health journey has been like for you and how it came together to form the work that you're currently doing with health and nutrition, and also what it's like working together as husband and wife.
Yeah, the background, I guess, for us both led us into health. We had probably very different paths. I was a swimmer. Joe was a long jumper.
Wow.
We had family friends that were chiropractors, and my mum was very holistic, and we were sort of always looking at health from a different lens. I guess that was like the introduction to what I'm doing now. It was never like a career I wanted to have or do. Being a sportsman, swimming was this thing for me, like a massive part of my life, and it ended up being chiropractic. It was like the thing that got me back swimming. I was a shoulder injury.
Wow.
Yeah, and it just sort of naturally led on to other things. And at the time, you couldn't study chiropractic in New Zealand. You had to go to America.
Okay.
So for me, it was I needed to know what I wanted to do. I was still swimming. And then I found that there's a college startup in New Zealand, and it became okay, well, I really like chiropractic. It really does me great. I feel awesome having chiropractic care. And it became more inquisitive because I like science and I didn't want to work in a lab. And then I ended up liking, obviously, just working with people. So it was like a progression. It wasn't like a career that I just sort of thought, I'm going to do that. And if you speak to a lot of people like us, I think that there's always a bit of a background story, and it's not like a career goal to become necessarily a chiropractor or whatever.
Right.
That's sort of my short story, and Joe's sort of got her own path, I think.
Yeah.
When I was doing sport, I was just interested in sport, nothing else really. And so everything I chose to do because it fitted in with my sport. So
Right.
when I decided what degree to do, I thought, right, I'll go to Loughborough University and do sports science, because Loughborough University was great for athletes. And so came out of the sports science degree, and then sort of went forward in my sport. And then when I retired from my sport, I just applied for a job really, which was working with the English Institute of Sport as a performance lifestyle advisor.
Oh,
And
wow.
because I'd already got my sports science degree and a master's,
Right.
then I basically had everything that they wanted. Plus, I'd got the sort of professional athlete side as well. So it was just fell into it perfectly, really. The other side of my role was going into sports and asking them what support services they need. So whether it was massage or physio or, you know, sports psych, and then deciding how much of the budget we were going to allocate to each part. I was basically working alongside all these other sports healthcare professionals, but as an athlete, I'd had a lot of weird and wonderful problems that just hadn't been cleared up the normal route. You know, I'd always got to the point where I'd had months out, and then somebody would whisper in my ear and say, look, go and see this guy, you know, he's a bit out of the box, but he's brilliant.
Yeah.
Right.
They always seemed to be chiropractors or osteopaths. They always did these weird and wonderful things, but I'd be fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's wonderful.
So I'd have been trying everything under the sun before that. So in my mind, it was quite magical, but I didn't really understand how it worked. And at the time when we were setting up the English Institute of Sport, even trying to get massage in was really difficult, because the massage was sort of seen as a bit out of the box. Chiropractic was even more out of the box. The more I was working with athletes on their lifestyle and sort of their goals and things, the more I realized that I was really missing working with the physiology side, and basically wanted to go and work as either an osteopath or a chiropractor.
And then you met me, and I was a chiropractor, and I just helped.
Yeah. And I met Nick, and all of his colleagues just seemed to love what they were doing. So it sort of all fell into place.
Yeah, it's so cool that you were able to both kind of end up in that same spot. You're obviously both really active and healthy and fitness conscious, but we'd love to hear, before we get into the medicine, a little bit more about your experience as professional athletes and maybe how that's impacted the work that you're doing.
Yeah, so from a swimmer perspective, I'd always go and see my chiropractor because it was something that I knew I just felt better with after being adjusted, as we call it. Effectively, it just became like a thing to do. And it was like going, I guess, to the dentist and getting your teeth checked. It became, you know, I've got to go and get my spine checked. As an athlete, like, you're always looking for the little bit of an edge. And in swimming, it was like 0.0 of a second or 0.01 that either got you on a team or didn't get you on a team, or got you a medal or didn't get you a medal.
Right. Yeah.
Always trying to get that competitive edge. And for me now, even though I'm not an athlete, really I take that athlete mindset for my clients and how I work with people, because at the end of the day, we're all human, and we all want to be better. Whether you're just wanting to do 5K, like I had someone today who's like 28, and he is frustrated because he has a younger brother that's quicker than him, and he just wants to do 5K.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm the oldest, I'll be fast. Yeah, my son is a baseball player and he pitches, and so it makes a big impact on how he feels and what he's able to do.
Yeah, and I think that's the sort of foundation for me. And as I've learnt more with what I've done, and obviously still learning, you just start to basically apply that to anyone. You know, that philosophy of just being better. You don't need to be an Olympian or, you know, anyone else sort of in the eyes of people's hierarchy, anything else other than just being better yourself. And that's where it starts for me and anyone that I see.
Very cool. Joe, we know that you're a chiropractor and functional medicine nutritionist. Would you mind sharing a bit about what that is and how it relates to the work that you do?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of chiropractors that have gone into functional medicine. It's sort of a bit of a misnomer, really, because if you think about how medicine started out, it was very much diet. All the natural aspects of it were included. That's very much the conventional word medicine now really is taken to be more of a sort of pharmaceutical symptoms-based approach.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that isn't actually doing us any favors, and that really need to start looking at the root cause of things. So as chiropractors, quite good because we've been trained in the physiology and the workings of the human body, but we've also been trained in the philosophy of trying to get to the root cause and trying to treat everything, optimize health in a natural way. So it's quite a natural progression, because functional medicine is really about trying to get to the root cause of things, and that can either be through just a really, really good history and trying to be a bit of a detective in that respect, or it can also be utilizing sort of different types of urine tests and stool tests, sometimes blood tests, just have a look at the sort of metabolic processes that are going on in the body and what the body might be depleted of, things that aren't quite functioning right, to try and get to the root cause. And then you try and address that through nutrition and lifestyle.
Yeah, we've heard that a lot about how it's like being a detective, that each person's individual and you have to ask all the right questions and know kind of how to put the puzzle back together.
I think what I love about it is you just constantly learning. I mean, you are in anything. There is just so much to learn. And also every client you have in, you learn something off them as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And that's another thing we've kind of been hearing from a lot of people is every single person probably has a very different individual personalized situation going on. So that has to keep things interesting too, which I love that aspect of it, because I'm sure no two patients would be the same, which has to keep things interesting for you too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you can have people that have exactly the same symptoms and exactly the same history, but when you do a stool test on them, it will give you completely, utterly different results.
Wow. That's fascinating too.
As a practitioner, you tend to go with your clinical experience thinking, okay, right, I've had lots of people in with these symptoms and this has worked. So you tend to give that a shot first, because well, this is the thing that tends to work. And then if that doesn't work, you go to the next one down on the ladder, sort of thing. With the testing, it sort of takes the guesswork out of that a lot.
Yeah, and that must be so rewarding to be able to have patients coming in who have maybe heard from, different doctors. They don't know what's wrong with them, or maybe they can't figure it out. And to be able to help them find that root cause must be really rewarding. We have been gearing more toward a relationship with our naturopath and our chiropractor, and that's just, changed my life.
If you think about it, really, functional medicine is really naturopathy, but just a bit more sciencey. That really, naturopathy is trying to get to the root cause, and generally you'll try and do it through sort of nutrition or lifestyle, perhaps herbs, perhaps homeopathy. Functional medicine, really, you've got more sort of hard, tangible facts in front of you, I guess, with the testing. But we are going back to more holistic sort of, the nutrition and the lifestyle to try and heal it.
And I think if we take all our hats off, we are all human and we all need air, we need water, we need sunshine, we need movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we do sometimes get hung up on, labels and obviously that's part of how we work. But at the end of the day, whatever you call it, we're really just trying to help that person function better. And as a chiropractor, people get hung up on the fact that we just look at back and neck pain and what have you. And yes, that's true that people come in and see us for that. But, the biggest thing that I love doing is just opening people's eyes to the fact that, okay, well, I understand you've got back pain, but look at your spine. It's not just a bunch of bones that's holding you up. It's actually housing this amazing thing called your nervous system. And your nervous system is what controls everything. Your brain talks to your body talks to your brain. And if you haven't got that connection, then how on earth, no matter what pill, lotion, whatever, even food, you're just not going to get a connection. So chiropractic really just fits underneath that umbrella if you're seeing a vitalistic type chiropractor, not just dealing with neck and back.
I guess it comes back to that.
Yeah.
Sort of, rather than taking a reductionist approach, it's like the analogy with the flower. If you just keep giving it water and it doesn't have sunlight and it doesn't have nutrients, then it's going to die.
Yeah. We forget that, don't we?
Yeah. Don't have a green thumb.
Dr. Nick, you talk a little bit about helping people have their best life or feel their best. Since chiropractic medicine is a bit more holistic, what might someone understand about going to the chiropractor?
Well, I think, like I said before, I try to break it down into its simplest form for people and start with the fact that everyone has a spine, just like everyone cleans their teeth in the morning without thinking about it or goes to the dentist. It's sort of like a thing that you do. And why wouldn't you? But the thing is, with our teeth, we look at them, we see them, and I don't give that analogy to everybody, but that's sort of like where I bring it back to in the basics, because I think,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't even call it medicine, and we don't even clarify, like, it's not even a thing. So for me,
It's
like,
not
if
medicine.
you talk about chiropractic, I would talk about like spinal care.
Okay.
And spinal care is such a, I think, a better way to look at it, because literally chiropractic is a nice word to sort of explain anyway. It means done with hand or done by hand, chiropractic. It's sort of coming back to making sure that people understand that they have an amazing body, empowering them that if we just make sure that they eat the better foods, have the water, have the simple things that we've been talking about today, but also consider that if your spine is under stress, which most of our lives have put it under stress, even from birth, you can really split it all up into those types of, so let's just say three for now, three stresses in life: physical,
Yeah.
chemical, and emotional. And chemical can be electromagnetic, like we've been talking about today. It can be nutritional stress. It can be pesticides, herbicides. It can be even medication. So how does that affect the back? Well, you have this thing called your nervous system, and it's a bit like it's this sort of link between you and the world. And it's continually monitoring your status of danger, pleasure, and all the things that go on. And if your life is constantly under load, physically, chemically, or emotionally, your body will contort. How many people listening to this, when you start mentioning things like that you love or things that you hate, do we change our posture? Do we sit up more? It's that sort of
Right.
whole body reaction. And so when we see people and touch them physically with our hands, we can feel that stress. And it's just like we need to help educate people that their life feeling, and they're literally carrying their life on their backpack. If there's anyone carried a heavy backpack, well, I can tell you that a lot of people that come and see us have been carrying, whether it be literal backpacks on their back or emotional backpacks on their back or chemical backpacks or all of the above.
Yeah.
Right.
It's heavy. So really it's to help de-stress that spine, to unwind that tension, to allow that brain and body to talk to each other. And it's as simple as that.
I love the education part of it because I think it does feel really powerful to be able to know and understand yourself a bit. And so you're educating your patients on how to kind of read their own symptoms and their own feelings and do the things that they need. I know that you've been doing a bit of education online as well with your nutrition talks and talking about gut health and immunity. Would you mind sharing a bit about that work and kind of how that started?
Yeah, well, I can tell you how it started. I forced Joe to do it.
That's awesome.
I have been working a lot recently on myself, and not sort of anything more than just trying to get me out there for people, because I realized that if I wasn't, it was stopping people from getting help. And first and foremost, it was really just a place of coming from, I want to, tell more people and help more people, sort of stepping outside the comfort zone and doing stuff. So, and I think nutrition obviously is a bit of a thing that you probably saw on the website, because I've always liked nutrition personally myself anyway, even though Joe's, quote unquote, the expert. It's just that I found that it was something that was needed at the moment, and immunity is a massive subject. And given what's going on in the world,
Absolutely.
Really timely, yeah.
and I guess that's relevant, and I wanted to be relevant. So Joe was sort of brought on, or put in front of the camera, as we've done on a few Zoom calls. So we've not done anything more than just a couple of Zoom calls with clients, and I started a Facebook group as well to just help bring some people together. So we've got Joe, as the resident sort of nutritionalist or functional nutrition, and me as the chiropractor giving posture tips and things like this, and learning as we go too.
I was really inspired by both of you, actually, because you both said something very similar along those lines of just kind of not necessarily knowing exactly where you were going when you started that journey, but finding that path along the way and seeing where you were needed most and what fit and what those needs were among us, the rest of us, right? All of us as humans.
Yeah, I think I've always known that I've loved nutrition, but it wasn't the right path for me. And actually looking back, the path I took has led me to be much better, which I would never have got to if I'd gone directly into it.
Absolutely.
That's so funny how that works, right? That where you think you're heading is almost never where you end up.
I think also because we've sort of lived and breathed health for so long, what we think everybody knows and everyone's doing is actually completely alien to most people. So
Yes.
Yeah.
I know, it's funny. So you think, you know all these things and you just assume that everyone understands that, but it's a journey and you have to kind of build that. On that note, what are some things do you think that people can do, just small steps that they can take to improve their health with nutrition or whatever it is that they can do in order to make their overall health improved?
well, the first thing, which is completely free, is sleep, which is actually my hardest thing.
I'm smiling because Joe's a night
Because
owl.
since I've been,
Me too.
since I my athletics, we always used to train at night. So we'd have a full day at work or school, and then we'd go training in the evening, and then I'd do my school at
Okay.
night. So that's gone on my whole life, me being primed to sort of really come into that sort of alert phase coming up to 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
Right. Yes.
If you look back to when we should be going to sleep, which apparently in the last 60 years, we are getting 20% less sleep than we used to do. We're getting between 1 and 2 hours less hours of sleep a night. Plus, we're looking at blue light before we go to bed.
Right.
Right.
So it sounds crazy, but one of the things I've done recently, which has really helped, is I haven't got them on at the moment because they just look ridiculous, but I've got some amber glasses.
Right. Yeah.
Take out that blue-green light completely, and then I found that by 9, half 9, I'm actually starting to yawn.
That's awesome. Sean, do you know about this?
I do have a pair as well.
Okay, Sean struggles with sleep as well. We all do right now, but Sean always does.
Oh, yeah. And especially with all the computer work we do for our normal jobs, teaching and research and things like that, it's definitely important when we're in front of screens so much already.
I think one of the things that has come out with the COVID is that obviously it's all to do with your immune system and your inflammatory response, and melatonin, which we produce when we sleep, has huge antioxidant properties, anti-inflammatory properties. It's amazing for the immune system. On top of that, they've just recently done a study on ladies that had IBS, actually giving them some melatonin every night, and that IBS been clearing up.
Oh, interesting.
So it's you're more likely to have gut permeability as well. So there's just so I could sit here for hours just talking about
Right.
and that's something that we all tend to put down lowest in priority.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of nutrition, it's just trying to get as wide a range of foods as possible so that we are providing lots of prebiotic foods for our gut. So the higher variety of foods you're taking in, then the more variety of bacteria you're going to have in your gut, because different types of bacteria like eating different types of food.
Okay.
There's more bacteria cells and these sorts of things. There's more bacteria cells than there are.
Yeah, we're a walking microbiome, really, aren't we? So
Yep.
yeah, so that would be the first thing, is when you go shopping, just try and fill up your basket with as many different coloured fruits and vegetables as possible, really.
That's great advice. Yeah.
Plus, it's fun too.
Yeah. So I think, obviously gut health is they're finding out more and more. And I think the last few years, the number of studies is that it's just been increasing exponentially in terms of what they're looking at with the gut and overall health.
Reducing your sugar and increasing your water, and
Yeah,
I mean that's like
the
given.
basics.
It's so interesting because I think when we do go to someone for help, bring up these basics that we all already know, you know, most of us, and they're like, okay, are you drinking enough water? And we're like, no. You know? Yeah. I have a friend who's been struggling with IBS for years, and it's so funny that you say that because she hasn't been able to figure out how to make herself feel better. And as soon as you said that relation to sleep, she never sleeps. And I'm sure it would make a world of difference for her to know that could make an impact.
Yeah, it's massively linked, because basically when we sleep, all our repair processes take place, including in the gut. So we basically have, you know, little sort of gardeners in the gut that go along and tidy everything up and repair things. And if you're not getting enough sleep, that's not happening.
Her garden's unruly.
Same with the brain. So like they're actually thinking at the moment that when we sleep, our brain cells actually contract to allow all the waste products that we've accumulated in the day to actually be able to get out.
Right, yep.
You know, think about how much of our life we spend sleeping. It's got to be important. Why, you know, if you look at how we've evolved, why would we still be needing at least a third of our life, you know, sleeping?
This is why getting a good mattress is such a great investment for you.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great, concise, simple way to put it, because I think when we tell people to feel like your best self, you have to take care of your mental health, and you have to drink water and get your sleep and do all these things. And when you have such a busy life, it can feel a bit overwhelming. But to know that it's something simple that you can do that can make such a huge difference, I think that will really resonate with people. What's kind of something you wish you knew when you were young adult athletes about chiropractics and nutrition especially?
I mean, I've completely changed my philosophy from then to now. I was just taking painkillers all the time in order to train.
Right.
Affected my gut health a lot. So with hindsight, I would have listened to my body more rather than trying to force my way through things. Normally, if you listen to your body, you can normally nip things in the bud a lot quicker than if you just training on them to the point where they get really bad. And I don't think I listened to my body enough. I had great coaches, but I didn't listen to myself enough.
Yeah, because maybe they just trusted what you were saying, or they wanted a certain result and they were trying to push you, but you knew what your body needed.
I think when I was really young, I just thought the more I train, the further I'm going to jump. And then I had a really bad injury, which required surgery, to the point where I would ever be jumping ever again. I did manage to get back, but because I'd lost it all, I had nothing to lose by literally starting at just a few training sessions a week. And I was jumping as far as I had been when I'd been training myself silly.
Right.
To give myself time to recover between sessions, so that everything, you know, my sessions are real quality. You tend to think the more I train, the better I'm going to be.
Well, yeah, and we as 20, 30, 40-year-old people, we understand our bodies more, and we are educated more, and we understand what we need and what our bodies are capable of. But I feel like when someone's a teenager or a young adult, it's hard to know all of those things. You don't have the experience yet. And so that's really great advice. Listen to your body.
I was training, and mine really simply was just better nutrition. I didn't eat bad, like we had good food. You know, I saw little things, like I used to train in Australia, and I lived, obviously in this case, it was I used to drink a lot of coffee, and I lived in a cafe or above a cafe. Yeah, so it was just hammering my adrenal glands all the time, and I was training really hard. And now looking back, I just know that my energy management was, probably not the best. And I think if I had better nutrition, and we sort of grew up a little bit in the carbo loading days where you'd have lots of pasta and lots of where it was in the general sense. But yeah, the nutrition side of things I think would be really helpful if I was talking to myself.
I don't know about in America, but over in the UK at the moment, there's been very little that's been said about nutrition and the immune system in terms of what's going on at the moment. And I think a key thing that Nick touched on earlier as well was making sure that we're not having too much sugar. It's I think especially when you're on lockdown and, you're walking past the snack cupboard, like,
Yeah,
Right.
right.
It's a comfort food.
yeah. And, at the end of the day, we're all going to have to emerge from this. So I think the key is really trying to manage our sugar intake as well. Some of the studies have shown that after you've had refined sugar, your immune system's depleted for at least 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just trying to think of ways of managing that to make sure that you're not as tempted, and having a bit of protein and good fats with every meal just to make you feel a bit fuller and a bit less likely to go and reach for the sugar.
I know that your parents as well. What kinds of things do you do? Do you just keep it out of the house, or how do you keep your children from kind of gravitating towards those sugary snacks?
2 different children. The first is amazingly healthy and would always think, is this good for me? Okay, no, it's not. I'm probably not going to have that. And he's always been like that.
Wow.
The other one is the complete opposite. So it's obviously not our parenting, because I think the thing for us is making sure that you've got healthy snacks out and ready for them. Trying to get them to have some protein for breakfast, keep them a bit fuller for longer and not feeling like they're craving sugar. So one of the things I sometimes do is in porridge, I'll just put some quinoa, for example.
Okay.
And so it's just making sure they've got a bit of protein in their breakfast. I find helps, especially my daughter, who's a bit of a sugar fiend. Yeah, we've got a big fruit bowl, which is always full.
Yeah, my son eats tomatoes, those little tiny tomatoes. So if he's watching a show or in front of the computer, I'll just stick a bowl of tomatoes like right in front of him, because I know he'll just eat it while he's not paying attention.
One of the things that just comes to mind, if you sort of break it down for me when I do any health talk with clients, is this principle that is, I get everyone to write it down. It's just called JERF, JERF. Just eat real food. Easy, and it is very, in a world of overwhelm, there's a lot of information, and like everything that we know, and especially with what Joe does, that there's heaps of really specific, prescriptive, useful, holistic type programs that are amazing. I think the biggest thing is, to start with at least, is to sort of go with the JERF principle and to listen to your body, just sticking to some really simple principles. If people get a bit, and I get overwhelmed sometimes as well, but just stick to things like, just eat real food is a really good starting point.
Well, we don't want to keep you much longer, but we would like to know if you have been reading anything or listening to anything lately that has been inspiring you or that you think listeners would find value in.
So I'm reading and I don't read a lot. Jo does all the reading and all the research mainly. So I just pick her brains with research and things. But no, I'm reading a book called One Last Talk, and it's not nutrition based or anything. So Philip McKernan, and this is not a plug, but just personally, like it's a great book because it really makes you, like it says, right, if you were on your deathbed and you had to give one last talk, what would you say?
Wow.
It's massive, right?
Yeah.
I think it's bringing that forward so that you can really start waking up and applying, some of the stuff we've been talking about, like what do you need to address, what do you need to change, and having that, not panic, but that urgency about, what you need to do. And it's not a morbid book. It's just a thing that he does live, and it's a document of people's last talks that they've written down, and they haven't died, so it's not that sort of book, but it's important because I think we often think we've got all this time and all this stuff, and I think it's a great reminder, if anything, and I'm finding it useful because a lot of people are going through the same stuff, and Sometimes we just think it's just us, and his whole, we just share that demon, or we share that story and speak our truth. That helps yourself selfishly by doing it, but also helps many other people. And I think that maybe ties into my initial comment about, me getting a bit more out there, for not for me's sake, ego me, it's more for others. And I think that's sort of a nice way of, summing up what I've talked about tonight. For everyone, I think it's a good sort of reminder. And you don't have to read the book. I think just talking about it tonight hopefully will just help people think, yeah, only one life.
Yeah, really cool. I've heard someone say, like, if you pass away, would you think, oh, I wish I would have spent more screen time, or, oh, I wish I would have stared at the television more. It's never those things. I wish I would have worked 10 more hours a day.
Yeah. Overtime.
Overtime. Well, it's been so lovely chatting with you both. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
That's okay. It's been great talking to you, and I really appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, thank you so much for your passion and for joining us and chatting about all of these things.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Health That's Personal. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts for bonus episodes and new releases every Wednesday. The Health That's Personal podcast is produced by me, McKernan, and hosted with the Phronesis Health Initiative team, Karen Shively and Sean Tingle. Special thanks to portrait artist Alexander, musical contributor Bernie Ramke, and to our guests and experts for their kindness and bravery in sharing their stories each week.
Please listen, subscribe, engage, and send us topics we can explore that would help you on your journey.
Because health, it's personal.